Hello and welcome to our latest Tech Talks at SDM video series for MMTV, our local broadcasting station. Today what we're going to be talking about is basic computer components and what they do. So for starters, we have a 3D model here of a little office setup, and we're going to talk about the three main components, or I guess four main components right here that we see on the desk. So first of all, since this is a desktop computer, it has a desktop or a tower. It also has a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. So these are all individual pieces of hardware, but they work together for your computing experience. So if we zoom in here on our tower, we see this silver button right here with the circle with the line coming through it. That's going to be a recurring symbol because that symbol is for power. So this is the button that we would press to turn it on, or if our normal ways of shutting down through the operating system are not working, this is what we would hold down to force shut off the computer. So the keyboard and mouse will be connected to the computer either with a wire to a USB slot, or with a dongle, which also goes in a USB slot. However, it's a separate piece, so there's no wire. It's for wireless. They could also use Bluetooth for connection. But they are connected to the computer, and so is the monitor. The monitor is where you visually see everything that you're doing on the computer, and it too will have a power button, which is represented by this green circle down here. It's going to be different on every monitor, but the idea is the same. It's going to be off to the side somewhere, maybe in the bottom right, maybe underneath, like on the bottom there. But there will be a button that turns on the monitor, and as long as your computer is also turned on, then you'll have something displayed on the monitor. So for an Apple computer, because the last one was just a Windows computer, it's going to be the same to an extent. However, with this version of their computers, this is an iMac, the monitor is also the desktop. So that tower piece is built into the monitor here, which is why it's a little bit thick in the back there, and why we only have three pieces. It's because this is a 2-in-1. It is a monitor and tower. And in the back here is where we see our power button for this machine. And in this case, this is a power button for the monitor and the computer, since they're in the same piece of hardware. And over here we have some of our ports, like USB ports and Ethernet jack. And we have our Apple mouse and keyboard. Next, we have something that is also from Apple, but a bit different. So this is a Mac Mini. And what this is like a small tower. So right here in the front is an indicator light, letting you know it's on. But this is very similar to just this piece here, this tower. So for the Mac Mini to function, you would need external devices like a keyboard, mouse, and a monitor. But if we spin it around, we can see that it also has the same symbol for a power button. You press that to turn it on. Similarly, hold it down if you have to force shut off the computer. This is a power connection slot. This is for Ethernet. We've got some USB-Cs, a HDMI port, and then some regular USB ports. So you would use, a combination of these to connect your other pieces of hardware: the monitor, keyboard, mouse. And then next up, we're going to be moving on to laptops. So we'll stick with Apple for now. And this is a MacBook Pro, or a 3D model of one. And so this is a case where everything is built into this one piece. That does mean that all the components are more compact, therefore they're going to be put under more stress. So laptops usually don't last as long as desktop computers, but it's also a lot easier to bring this around than, any of the previous things that we've just shown. Especially because, the Mac Mini looks like it might be easy to bring around, except you're forgetting about the monitor and your other devices, right? So the way you would power this one on is in the top right here. We have a little black square. It does not have the power symbol on it, and this will vary from model to model, but in this one's case, we would click on that button to turn it on, as well as hold it down to force shut down the computer. And similarly, it also has some ports on the side. There's an audio jack, some USB-C slots, a couple more USB-C slots on the other side. And something you might notice we don't have, because we have the built-in keyboard, you might notice we don't have a mouse. So that's why we have this piece right here, this bit of a different shade of gray that's a little bit lower on the front here of the MacBook, and that is a trackpad, and it can be used like a mouse, but we'll be going over that in a little bit more detail momentarily. Next, we're going to move on to a Windows laptop, and here, if we really zoom in, we can see that it has a power button as well with that same symbol, and that's what we would press to turn this on. It's also got built-in keyboard, monitor. It's the same idea. It's all the components built in together into one device. And then here we have the trackpad, and this trackpad is a little bit different. So I guess this is a good time to start to segue into what some of these individual pieces do, such as the mouse and the keyboard. So when we have a laptop, it will come with the trackpad, which tries to replace the mouse. So what the mouse does is it allows you to move your cursor around the screen, which is what I'm doing right now with what you see as a white hand moving across the screen. So I am moving this mouse around on the mouse pad to move the cursor. So what a trackpad does is the same idea. However, you just use the pad to drag your finger along it to move the cursor. So if I were to take this imaginary hand, which I'm controlling with the cursor, or with my mouse, which is the cursor, and I were to pretend to move my hand across the trackpad here, that would then move the cursor across the screen in the same manner. And every time you hear that noise, which puts a circle on this laptop, that is me clicking, and that is a left click. And what a click is when you push down on the mouse. This Apple mouse only has one smooth surface, so it's similar to a trackpad in the sense that it's just got, this one surface area that you're working with as both a pad and a button. This one is an example of one that actually has additional pieces. So these represent clicking, the ability to click. This right here is for left clicking, and then this one is for right clicking. So let me back up a moment, and we'll go take a look at this mouse right here. So as you can see with this mouse, it's very similar to this one. However, it has a split down the front and two clear sides for clicking. A left side and a right side, and they're each separate clicks. It also has this here in the middle, which is for scrolling, and that's what you do to go up and down a page. It's like scrolling on the phone. It's the same idea, except you can use this wheel, or there's other ways that I'm sure we'll mention in other videos. If you're on a trackpad, actually let's go back to the Windows one. So if you're on a trackpad, we have left click, right click, and then scrolling is done with two fingers up and down on the trackpad. So basically like that. Whereas with just one finger is you moving around the cursor. So a left click is the way that you interact with anything. It's how you select something. So when I get out of this, if I wanted to open up a new tab, or basically there's a thing here on the screen, when I hover over it, it says new tab. If I want to do that, if I want this new tab, I have to click on it. And then it gives me what it says it's going to do, which is a new tab. Right? And that's what it says here. You don't have to worry about what that means if you don't know. But the idea is that if there's something that is to be interacted with, clicking is what you're going to do. Like here, this is the home page for a certain website for Canva. So if I'm clicking on this, it takes me to canva.com. If I click on this X, it's going to close that tab. Similarly here. But sometimes you might want to do something that isn't as obvious. So let's say that I want to do something besides close this tab, but I don't see an obvious way to do what I want. If I right click on the tab, that gives me a variety of different options, like duplicating the tab. So now I just open up that same tab so that I have two of them and I can switch between. And if I right click, once again, I have a variety of different options. And that's what right click means. Right click means give me more options for what I can do with the thing that I'm right clicking on. So instead of just selecting or doing what a certain button will do, as this, like we figured out, this X, if we click it, closes the tab. So right click will always give you more options for what to do with any given object on the screen or in the interface. It's also important to note that when it comes to using a mouse or a trackpad, it's always personal preference. You can get used to one or the other. You don't have to use both. You don't have to use one specifically based on your setup. You can buy trackpads that fit with desktops, all sorts of stuff. But basically, they can do all the same things, but it takes a bit of time using it to get really used to how to actually properly navigate. but you can also customize how both the mouse and trackpad work, such as switching left and right click if you're a lefty, say, and I don't know, it's sort of more intuitive to you. When it comes to trackpads, right clicking is often done with 2 fingers pushing down on the trackpad, since there is no right. With the Windows example, we had the 2 different keys underneath the trackpad for the click buttons. Right here and right here. So that's another way. So like this would be right clicking, but you know, most trackpads don't have those, so it'd be just 2 fingers pressing down on the trackpad, similarly to how you scroll, but instead you press down, and you can hold down Control and then click on something. So holding down this key and then pressing this or clicking on here would give you a right click. And these are things that you can turn off or on based on which one is your preference. Another thing that is common is for the bottom right corner to be right clicking on trackpads. So you might find yourself accidentally clicking too close to the bottom right corner and right clicking when you're meaning to left click. So that's something that you can customize. So the keyboard is vital to doing things on the computer, especially if you want to do things, efficiently or expediently. So the main thing that you need to learn about the keyboard is how to type. And there are tons and tons and tons of great free resources that will help you with this. And one that we like to promote, or one that we send people to a lot, is typing.com. And you can sign up with a free account and start following guides that show you how to get the most out of your keyboard, how to start being comfortable with it, the right way to sit, and the right way to, place your hands on the keyboard, and some tips and tricks that will help you gain competency with that. And it is something that is important because you end up having to type all the time when you're on the computer. And once you're familiar with typing, that's when you can use keyboard shortcuts more easily, because the same nature by which you'll start to not have to look at the keys when you type, you'll also remember where the keys are for those shortcuts, and then it becomes second nature. Now that we've talked about the hardware that allows us to get onto our computer, let's talk about what we see and are using when we actually have it on. So the computer is the hardware, and the main piece of software, which is the programming or the coded stuff that allows you to do things on the computer, the first layer of that that you're going to encounter is the operating system. You can think of the operating system as the entirety of the brain for the computer. It's what's doing all of the actions. It's what's allowing you to see visuals on the screen, and interact with the various things that you have. So when we look at the computer screen here, let me just move this over. Oops, let me move that over too. What we have here is the desktop. And this is a desktop in an operating system that is MacOS, Mac operating system, because this is a Mac computer. There are other operating systems, Linux, Windows, Chrome OS, which is from Google, and a few others. Depending on how you look at it, lots of others, because Linux has tons of versions. But the big ones are Windows, Mac OS, and Chrome OS. They all have differences, but generally speaking, they have the same features and very similar styles. The aesthetics are a bit different, and there are things here and there that make each one unique. We're going to be focusing on Mac today. However, there are certain things that apply across the board. It's just a matter of how it works with that specific operating system. So for example, up here in the top of our screen, along this whole top here, we have the Apple bar. And here you will always see this apple in the top left. It gives you a certain set of tasks that you can choose from, such as shutting down the computer, restarting the computer, logging out of your account, force quitting things, stuff that was recently opened, etc. You'll also see that we have things like File, Edit, View, Go, Window, and Help. And you might notice that I skipped over this word Finder here. Whatever is here represents the program that you are currently in. So if I click on Google Chrome and bring this over, let me just minimize it since it's not really, or not minimize it, I'm just going to make the screen smaller. It's not too important for us right now. But as you can see, now that I'm in Chrome, Google Chrome, this in the top left switches to the word Chrome. And as you can see, some of the other tabs up here, each individual word is a section. You can see the highlighted section in gray here. This is a tab. Similarly, one of the Chrome tabs on the Apple bar is called Tab, because these, as I mentioned earlier, are also tabs, just like tabs of a folder. This way to take something that people conceptually understand in real life and apply it to something digital is a constant theme with computers. So the better you are at trying to think of what sort of digital application of a real term that you know could exist, then the better you would be at understanding concepts you're unfamiliar with, such as a tab, potentially. Alright, so this Apple bar gives you the ability to do a variety of different things, depending on the program you're in. File, Edit, View are almost always going to be there. Window, very often, potentially Help as well. File usually gets you some of the more basic functions that some of you might be familiar with, like print. Close the window, close the tab, new window, open file. Basic features for the browser. Edit. This is similar to stuff that you might think of when it comes to word processing, but It is stuff that you can do in all sorts of programs these days. So, cut, copy, and paste, find and replace, undo. Usually view will be related to things like if it's in full screen or not, zooming, showing the bookmark bar. History is pages that you've been on recently. So each individual URL represents a different page on the internet. So we are on sketchfab.com/3dmodels, etc., etc. That is one page, but if I click on Sketchfab, it takes us back to the home page, which is just sketchfab.com. So a history of the pages you've been on. Profiles, that's related to what account is in charge of your current browser session and the ability to change between them. Window has to do with, it's similar to view, but it's more pertaining to when it's a window specifically, which is what it is here, opposed to full screen like this. And we'll get out of that. Over on the right hand of the Apple bar up top, we have a variety of icons that represent different applications that are running and or features. We're not going to worry about too many of those because those are always unique. But starting at this one right here, this is the Bluetooth symbol, so you can click on that to get quick access to seeing what Bluetooth devices are connected. This is the Wi-Fi and internet connection symbol. This one specifically means that you're connected to the internet. If I turn it off, it becomes the same thing, but without being boldened, and there's a slash through it. Now once I turn it back on, it's looking for the network and it's connecting, so it changes back. The reason that keeps popping up and down is because when I click on this area, basically the whole main area that isn't specified in some different way, like being a bar with this color behind it, or this area that also has a background to it, that sort of means it's a different piece. But anywhere on this picture that I click, it's going to bring forward the last window I had open or minimize it. That's a feature on Apple's operating system, so on MacOS. And then back to the top right on the Apple bar, we have a search icon. And at this point, it's called Spotlight Search, but at this point in pretty much every operating system, there is a overarching search feature that is extremely useful to find just about anything on your computer. So whether it's a certain file, so we've got some files here as well as some web searches. So it tries its best to find what you're looking for, whether it's on the computer or online. So if I start to type access, I can get keychain and access, as well as accessibility, two different things found in settings. So it's not just files and the internet, but also functions of the operating system, such as settings, which is represented by this gear here, just like it is on iPhones. All Mac products have very similar functionality, and the symbolism is the same across the board. And then also in the top right, we have a little quick menu, which is similar to another menu that's on iPhones and iPads. We've got the Siri button, as well as our date and time. We will continue going over upgrading basics in one of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.